James Sunderland, the protagonist of Silent Hill 2, is both hero and villain of his own story. After receiving a mysterious letter from his dead wife Mary, James returns to the abandoned town to find her, but as the story reaches its climax, James must confront his guilt of killing Mary if he has any chance of leaving Silent Hill. It's not only a physical journey for some characters, but a mental journey too, as the dark magics that envelop Silent Hill compels James to return to the town to answer for his crimes, and through this journey, he'll encounter many creatures that are not only the stuff of nightmares, but are metaphorical creations made from his own emotional stress. In this video, I'll be taking a look back at the creatures of Silent Hill 2 and analysing each of them in turn. And if you do enjoy this video and want to see more, leave a like and subscribe, that way you can stay up to date on all future videos I put up. To begin with, it's best to provide some context to the monsters of not only Silent Hill 2, but for all the creatures in the series to get a better understanding of what's happening to James, as their reason of existence differs from person to person. The town was once home to a local religious cult known as the Order, who tried to bring their god into the world through ritual magics with disastrous consequences. The child, named Alessa, that they tried to use for the birthing ritual grew in power that she was able to split her spirit from her body and hide from the cult by enveloping the town in a fog and forcing Silent Hill to be abandoned. It's here that things start to get interesting. Whether this was the original design by Alessa, or because of the Order meddling with dark magics, monsters began to appear in the town. These creatures seem to be physical as well as symbolic manifestations of people's subconscious minds. They are mainly created through negative emotions such as anger, fear, or guilt, and as mentioned before, the creatures differ in each game and exist for different reasons. The player characters could encounter the creatures made from the minds of the antagonists, such as the case in Silent Hill 1 and 4 with Alessa and Walter Sullivan, or self-projections like in this case for James and the other people he meets in Silent Hill. 3 years before the events of the game, his wife Mary, who had an illness that left her bedridden and hospitalized, was killed by James when he suffocated her to death with a pillow. It's this state of guilt that made him repress his memories of those events, and led him to believe that the letter he got from his dead wife was actually real, but it's confirmed by the end of the game that the letter didn't even exist, and the town may have brought him back to Silent Hill in order to confront his crime. So with that all in mind, let's take a look at the monsters. So this is the first monster type that James encounters when he enters the town, and like most of the creatures in the game, these seem to take on the physical appearance of a human female. The lion figures have revealing legs that stand on platform shoes, while wearing what looks to be a cross between a sexy high-cut thong bodysuit and a straitjacket that is fashioned from skin. The way they move around looks like they are trapped inside their own flesh and are struggling to get out of it. And when they are close enough to James, they will arch their backs away to spray a toxic gas from the front opening of their flesh. Though they are slow while standing, if James strikes them to the ground, they'll be able to bolt around him very quickly. It's in this position that makes their encounter unsettling, not just because of the noise they make, but because they can also hide under vehicles to lie in wait for an attack. These creatures may symbolize a couple of things. One interpretation is that they're a reflection of James himself, a man who is sexually and emotionally frustrated, a frustration brought on by being unable to hold or even touch Mary, a woman he loved and was unable to help during her illness. A creature that is bound inside its own flesh and unable to break free can easily be compared to James as a man who couldn't save his wife and had to take Mary's verbal abuses the more she became angry. Another interpretation is that the creatures could represent Mary herself. If the name-lying figure is not to be taken literally as a creature that moves across the ground, then the name could mean a bedridden Mary. Though the straitjacket theme is an obvious link to a psychiatric hospital, there's no evidence to suggest Mary was ever in one. The creature's shapely body and high heels may resemble James's lustful thoughts of his wife before she had her disease. The poisonous gas may be seen as either a metaphor for vomiting, alluding to the illness, or represents Mary's verbal abuses. James first encounters these monsters within the Woodside Apartments building. It has female legs that seem to be wearing trainers and a dirty leotard. Its top half is missing a body that's replaced with another pair of legs, with missing feet, and joined together at the hips. The mannequins are the most stealthy of all the monsters in the game. Like their name implies, they can stand completely frozen like a model display in a shop window, waiting for James to get close enough to strike. The radio static won't even alert James to their presence until they begin to move. And a rare moment can be seen with the mannequins when going along Nathan Avenue, as two of them will launch themselves out of the trees in front of James without warning. They attack by swiping downwards with either of their stumpy legs. These creatures are yet another manifestation of James's desires and frustrations, as these also have revealing legs. The mannequin legs may also represent Mary as a reminder to James that because of her illness, she was no longer able to walk. Once James reaches Brookhaven Hospital, he'll encounter these deformed nurses. They wear a provocative uniform, wearing white high-heel shoes and a miniskirt to accentuate their legs, and a revealing low-cut top that shows their cleavage. Except for their bloody mouths, the nurses don't have any other facial features, only a fleshy bubble head, as their name implies, that appears swollen and bloodied as if it's about to burst like a blister. There are differences between the bubblehead nurses from the fog world and the ones from the other world, as these ones look more dirty and are wearing black shoes. They also have what appears to be a large parasite attached to their backs, similar to the nurses from the first game. The nurses move slow, in an awkward and shaky manner, and carry a steel pipe for a weapon. When James is nearby, but not close enough to attack, they'll start to convulse violently. As a warning, they'll use the pipes to either do a quick swipe attack or a slow forward thrust. The nurses' revealing attire are yet again symbolic of James's desires, while also serving as a reminder of Mary's terminal illness and hospitalization. Their lack of facial features could represent James's revulsion of Mary's face due to her illness, and the convulsions could be interpreted as Mary's suffocation by James as he smothered her with a pillow. The parasite on the backs of the otherworld nurses might be part of Mary's illness, though this may just be homaging the nurses from the first game. Now these creatures don't have any real connection to James, but they appear in both this game and the first one. They look like oversized cockroaches, and were a manifestation of a lesser sphere of insects. The creepers attack by biting James's feet before scurrying away. Their inclusion here may be just a homage, but they might also be considered as another reminder that Alessa's power over the town still lingers even after her defeat at the end of the first game. These monsters are first seen after leaving Brookhaven Hospital and are rarely seen in the game. They are female-based and have large padded arms with giant lips at the ends. The clothing that they are wearing look like hospital patient garments, and this time, because they're hanging under the floor mesh, their legs are never sexualized. The Mandarins are never seen above ground level. They hang onto the floor mesh above a black abyss, and climb along the mesh using their giant lips. They attack by using the spike that comes out of the lips of their arms, not unlike a tongue. The symbolism can be seen as Mary, who was a patient in a hospital, who was unable to walk and became bedridden. The sharp spiked tongue attack alludes to Mary's verbal abuses toward James as her condition worsened. The fact that they hang above a dark abyss might imply James's feelings of helplessness of being unable to save his wife. The Mandarins share a similar look to the Silent Hill 3 monsters called the Closer, which I'll be covering in another video. These monsters only appear once within the hospital, hidden inside a sack of flesh and suspended in a metal frame. The flesh lips' only human features can be seen in its legs hanging down and the giant lips at the bottom of the creature. They move along the ceiling and will swing their legs out to strike at James. They can also use their feet to grab hold of his neck and pull his head into their mouths to chew on. The design on the flesh lip was created in James's subconscious after he and Mary visited the Silent Hill Historical Society and saw a morbid picture of an executioner with several bodies hung in cages. The metal lattice represents a bed frame, while the legs might be another reminder of Mary being unable to walk out of her bed, and the monster's lips is another reflection of Mary's verbal abuses during her final days. This creature is first encountered as a boss fight in the Labyrinth, then later as a regular enemy in Lakeview Hotel. It appears as two figures, one lying over the other on a bed covered in a blanket of flesh. The upper figure's arms and legs appear under the rectangular bed frame, and the other figure almost looks like a male phallus with large lips on the front. If this design sounds conflicting, it's because this monster is a mix between two characters' subconscious. James sees it attacking Angela Orozco, who's also drawn to Silent Hill for murdering her incestuous father and brother, and carries that guilt with her throughout the game. It's slow moving and attacks by grabbing James's head and placing it into the slit under its bed frame like it's biting his head. The monsters in the hotel appear the same, but move faster and are weaker. From Angela's point of view, and it's important to note that we can only see the monster through James's perspective, but it can be assumed that she's seeing a manifestation of her father or brother's abuse of her. From James's point of view, it represents a terminally ill Mary, something that reminds James yet again that she was bedridden. This contributed to it reappearing in the hotel, where the two of them had stayed on vacation before her illness. The monster's sexual overtones yet again show James's frustrations, and the large lips are a reminder of his wife's abusive words. This seemingly unstoppable force that wears a distinctive metal pyramid helmet over its head is encountered throughout the game. It wears a bloody butcher's apron with white gloves and black boots, and wields a great knife that it drags along the ground, which is later replaced with a spear. During the first fight, Pyramid Head will use the great knife to either do a horizontal swipe or an instant kill attack by swinging the great knife downwards. He can also grab James by the throat to strangle him. In the later part of the story, he'll change weapons to a spear that he can thrust forward for a quicker attack, and in the final part of the game, James will have to fight two of them in battle. Pyramid Head is different from the other monsters because he's only a reflection of James himself and nothing to do with Mary. He's a manifestation of James's guilt and his desire for self-punishment. The monster exists to make James remember what he did to Mary, and this is why it murders Maria several times, as she represents the sassy version of Mary that James created from his subconscious. On 2 occasions, James will witness Pyramid Head performing some disturbing sexual activities. The first happens in the Woodside Apartments, where it's seen in the middle of an aggressive act with 2 mannequins, and the other in the stairwell of the Blue Creek Apartments. Pyramid Head can be seen with a lion figure in some kind of sex act. Both mannequins and the lion figure end up killed, which reminds James of the desires towards Mary, as well as her murder. So why did James's mind create this figure of retribution to look this way? The answer can be found within the Silent Hill Historical Society, a location once visited by James and Mary on their vacation 3 years prior to the game's story. Seen on the wall is a morbid painting called Misty Day Remains of the Judgment, which shows an executioner that is dressed in the same attire, holding a spear and surrounded by caged victims. To James, the helmet could be seen to represent his torment, as the sharp angles suggest the possibility of pain. After he witnesses Maria's 3rd execution, he finally accepts what he's done, and the Pyramid Heads attack him in his final trial. They eventually use their own spears to impale themselves. Because they have served their purpose and are no longer needed, now James is free to finally meet his wife. The final boss battle is an encounter with either Mary or Maria dressed as James's wife, depending on the player's actions throughout the game. Regardless of the choices made, the same monster appears for the final battle. She appears as Mary did on her sick bed, placed in a metal frame similar to the flesh lips, and suspended upside down like the position Maria was in before her execution. She wears a hospital patient garment with what seems to be some kind of pillow or neck rest behind her head. In this cage, Mary is able to move around by using these strange tentacle-like protrusions on the corners of the bed frame to glide around the room. Up close, she uses a long sharp-edged tentacle that comes out of the headrest to either strike or strangle James, while her long-range attack is a swarm of moths that can slow James down and allow her time to close the distance. The symbolism of her appearance here is an obvious reference to Mary's hospitalization from what she wears and being unable to move due to her illness. Mary strangling James is similar to his suffocation of her with the pillow, and the moths used by her in various cultures are seen as a symbol of transformation and death. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video and I hope you enjoyed it. Up next will be a Silent Hill 3 video covering the monsters from that game. And if this does gain some interest, I could do some more, like Resident Evil BOWs or MGS bosses. And I will be doing plenty more Easter eggs videos, so watch out for them. If you're interested in any of this, then subscribe, that way you can stay up to date on all videos I put up. And once again, thanks to all of you who have subscribed and are continuing to help this channel grow. So until the next video. Bye everyone.